Hello everyone, welcome to yet another session of Mental Health Awareness Week. Today we'll be talking about chemical and non-chemical addiction. Before we start, let us say a word of prayer as we continue. Dear Heavenly Father, we come before you this moment as we take this session, oh Lord, how we pray that you're going to be with us through the session, and at the end, all the honor and the glory will be unto you. It is in Jesus' name we do pray and believe. Amen. Karibuni sana. I will allow my colleague at the extreme left to introduce herself and continue.
Hello viewers, my name is Hannah Kiama, counseling psychologist. I'm also a caregiver and a practicing child psychologist.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Kiama. And my name is Masi Wangari Itege, also a counseling psychologist, also a certified art therapist. My area of interest is transitions and parenting. At this moment, I will welcome our colleague who is going to take us through this very interesting session. Welcome.
Thank you for that awesome introduction. I'm Rebecca Wamwene. I am a counseling psychologist. My area of interest is chemical and non-chemical addiction and family therapy. And the two are usually inseparable. But today I will majorly focus on chemical and non-chemical addictions. And I do not know what goes through your mind when you hear about chemical and non-chemical. Maybe you have been so used to hearing about the chemicals, that is the drugs, that is marijuana, that is right now the talk of our nation today. Because even when you listen to our youth, they are all over up and about saying, you know what, we are going to pay our debts within a very short time because Mary Jane or over. So maybe you have heard of such, you've known the hard drugs, you've known the uppers, the downers, the hallucinogen, you have maybe even interacted with them right in your house because maybe some of your children have abused the same. But I don't know whether you have ever thought about the non-chemicals and how addictive they can equally be. And maybe much of my focus will be on the non-chemicals and how also they can either bring or birth the addiction of the chemicals, or the chemicals can also birth the non-chemical addiction. Like one of our colleagues asked during the other facilitation, she asked, which comes first, the egg or the chicken? So even in this particular one, the chemical and the non-chemical, we may not be able to particularly say that the egg came first or the chicken came first, but most of the times you will find that both of them will work hand in hand. So what are addictions? When we think of addictions, I do not want to go into the very huge scientific introductions, but I want to bring it very close to us. One of the hardest hit areas by addictions is the brain. And when we talk about the brain, we talk about when the addictions or whatever it is you are addicted with produces a hormone known as the dopamine and introduces it into the brain. And once it is introduced into the brain, okay, it is naturally there, created by God. But now this one has been introduced by drugs. And it is introduced into the pleasure center of the brain, whereby the brain is in charge of releasing pleasure, happiness, joy. You know, when you're somewhere and someone speaks something funny, you do not prepare yourself that by the time nitaenda huko, nitacheka. You do not prepare yourself. You just find yourself smiling or even laughing. Now, when these addictions take charge of your brain, now they dictate when it is you to be happy, when it is you to be sad, when it is you to be excited, when it is you are to smile, and when not, as opposed to the natural that will not even signal that it is time to laugh, it is time to feel good, it is time to feel excited, you just naturally feel. So now when the pleasure centers are taken over by the addictions, then what happens is that a part of our brain that is called the hippocampus, that is in charge of memories, it now creates the memories. The brain creates memories that are going to be remembered oftentimes. such that now maybe you have passed through some place, something in your brain reminds you that here you used to find a base. Kuna base inakuanga hapa ya either drugs or something. When you pick your phone, because there are some memories that have been created through the brain. And now when you get your phone, instead of going where you were supposed to go, maybe you wanted to send an email, maybe you wanted to Google because you have studies, you have some work to deliver. Your memory, your part of the memory, the hippocampus reminds you, remember, there is a place, there is an app, there is a certain place you went the other day and you felt so good. So how about you just click for once? It's just a minute or two, and before you know it, you have spent a whole day on your phone doing a lot of nothing, or even on your laptop, or even on your computer, doing a lot of nothing, but moving from one place to another, one app to another, looking for those things that are going to excite you. Now, what do I mean? Let me bring it closer, more closer to us. If today a bus was hijacked, and the bus is full to capacity, maybe it has a capacity of 40 or even 35 or 25, whatever it is. And that bus has a conductor, it has a driver. Some of the buses even have two conductors. So it has two conductors, it has a driver, it has all the passengers on board. When it is hijacked, the power and the key is taken away from the driver, the conductor, and the passenger. They may not literally take the key of the bus, but they have the key because they're the ones who say when the vehicle will be running and when it stops. They are the ones who say the direction that vehicle is going to take. I mean, if for example it was headed to Thika, it can be diverted from Thika and taken to a very different direction, maybe even to Mombasa, or even to Gong Road, or even wherever else. Because now the driver who continually knows that this is my route of operation, I move from here to here at this time, I should be at Thika at this moment, I should have been able to finish up this and this at this particular time. He now no longer has the power. It has been taken over by someone else. That is exactly what happens when addictions take toll on the brain of a person. When the brain has been hijacked, you no longer have the key to your behavior, the key to your hygiene, the key to your walk and talk, the key to your relationships, the key to those things, maybe your values, your morals, everything is taken away from you. Now, what are some of the non-chemical addictions? Maybe I can ask my colleagues. What do you think is one of the type of non-chemical addictions?
One of them is the gadgets.
The gadgets, wow. Normally called the nomophobia.
I also know that you can have eating disorder.
Wow.
And even shopping. People have shopping disorders.
Oh dear. She's telling us about shopping. Imagine those people who go shop and buy things that they were not necessarily going to use. My God. And you find that this person will go round from one hawker to another, from one shop to another, just picking, even things that do not fit them. They don't need them, but they are buying and buying. It is an addiction. Other types of addictions are workaholism. People who are totally sold to work. You will never get them away from work. And how is that? How is that? You will find that they are in the office earlier than usual. They leave the office later than usual. And they tag along the office to their homes. They carry the laptop, they carry the paperwork, they carry everything. You get into their cars and you are shocked. It is a whole office inside that car. And they will go with it at home. When they are eating, they are working. When they are supposed to be sleeping, they are working. They sleep very, very minimal hours. Very minimal hours. That is workaholism. A workaholic will not even trust anybody with their work. They must be there always. They don't believe that other people will do it the right way. So they have to be there. They are the supervisors, they are the workers, they are the everything. They are everything. Workaholism. And it is very dangerous because workaholism is part of what has brought about parenting issues in our families, is part of what has brought suicidality, is part of what has brought a lot of unfinished businesses, is what has brought a lot about divorce. You find that when people rise ranks, they divorce, they no longer need families. They no longer have families because they cannot sustain them. The family needs them, but they are totally sold to their offices. Then we also have another addiction that is very, very terrible as well, called gambling. Gambling. Betting is all over. Gambling is all over. You find that people will even gamble with their children, their wives, their property, their everything. And you know, gambling has got 3 stages. Stage number 1, the winning stage or the excitement stage, where you're feeling like, yay, I have won 200, yay, I have won 1,000, yay, I have won the game. You know, it excites you, it makes you feel good. And remember, I said it hijacks. An addiction hijacks. So a compulsive gambler will always feel like I need more of the winning, more of the winning, more of the winning, more of the winning. And in the process of chasing the winning, then you come to the number 2, the losing stage, whereby they have started losing, and because of loss, they feel ashamed, they feel guilty, they feel fearful,
They regret.
they feel,
They regret.
they regret. They feel the hopelessness, you know. Yeah, they feel that now where I'm headed to, I don't know how I'm going to handle this. And the way maybe I had made everybody, you know, telling them, see, you come and also do it. What is it that you're doing? We are earning money like just left, right, and center everywhere. Earning and getting names. You know, we are earning even followers because gambling has gotten even into our social media platforms, where in IG you will have to earn followers and you're telling everybody, come, I have seen a site that will give you followers like pap, and then all of a sudden you've started losing. You're like, oh my God, what do I tell people? Then stage number 3, hopelessness or desperation stage, whereby now this person becomes desperate. And in the losing stage, you would imagine that a person will tell themselves, hey, mi nimelose, sitaki hiyo direction tena, wacha mimi nitulie. Instead of that, the craving, because addictions give you a craving. Much as you're losing, the craving continues telling you, do it again. Do it again. Failure should not discourage you. Continue doing. And so the failures multiply and multiply until now you get to that stage of desperation or hopelessness. When a person becomes hopeless or desperate enough, that is when they become suicidal. That is when depression sets in. That is when anxiety sets in. That is when all manner of mental health disorders that we had talked about here, even the overeating that we have been told. Now you're comforting yourself with eating and eating and eating. You know, before you realize it, it has become detrimental. So that is also another one. Then we also have another one that is rarely talked about, sex addiction. Sex addiction, you find that a person goes to bed with every Tom, Dick, and Harry. They will have sex anywhere, even in the toilet, even all over, you know. People will do all manner of things. They will go clubbing, and they will not want to know whether they have a partner or not. They will do it on themselves. That is masturbation. You will find them in the urinals, in the toilets, and all over. Sex addiction. You become so intoxicated in your brain such that all you think about is sex, 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 and sex. Now, when a person becomes addicted, what happens to them? You know, there is what we call operant conditioning. That was a theory by a scholar we call F.B. Skinner. In fact, the two names, operant and conditioning, can tell you exactly what that is. The way you operate, you have been conditioned by something. So that is the operant conditioning. So you find that this person, even at work, they can only operate when they are under the influence. Have you ever seen a husband who will come home? They cannot discuss anything with the children or the wife if they are not high. They are very cool. They are very nice. They They will not talk, and you will think that they are introverts. Wait until they are high. That is when they will say everything, including what they were not supposed to say. That is the operant conditioning. How does it operate? It operates through rewarding and reinforcement. Rewarding. Because addictions appear to reward the brain. They appear so rewarding. That is why you hear the people say when they take, especially marijuana, they feel a certain high and a very good feeling. They feel like they are flying. They feel like they are so relaxed. They feel like, but the highs and the rewards are short-lived. They are short-lived. Now, when they take toll on the brain, it is when you realize that you cannot exactly be able to operate without them at all. And what do the addictions do to the brain? And when I talked about sex addiction, it also invites pornography, which is also an addiction. You find that a person will watch one pornographic material after another, move from a gay pornography to a lesbian pornography to a bisexual pornography to a whatever, all over, And because of that, addictions also lead to crimes. You find that a person will start stealing, they will start telling lies, they will start doing things that are against the rule of law. They will drift away from God. So their spiritual life dies slowly because it has been invaded. And remember, the brain has already been hijacked. And when it has been hijacked, even if you wanted to pray, you can't. Because if that bus has been hijacked, much as you want to pray and you're telling yourself, I'm praying inward, and you're even closing your eyes, you're praying, there's also a voice telling you, remember any time, unaeza angukiwa, because you don't know who is this standing next to me. So the more you want to pray, the more you want to read the Bible, something comes and drifts you away from the same. So what is birthed by the addictions? A lot of mental health disorders, such as disorders that will cause you to hallucinate. You hear people telling you, when I was walking, I saw people running after me. And me, I turned and I saw them. I could even hear the voices. I tried sleeping and the voices were telling me, wake up, wake up, wake up. Or even when I was going to work, a voice was telling me, usiende, rudi. So can we hear what else can happen to people when they are under addiction, maybe from my colleagues?
They start isolating.
That what?
They start isolating from others.
They start isolating themselves. And I would speak to the parents who are listening and watching. Anytime you see your child isolating themselves, they were talkative before, all of a sudden they are very quiet. Or they were quiet, all of a sudden they are talkative, they are the ones who are making the evening or the day. And they are telling you so many stories. And some parents will tell us, by the way, my child is very good. He came telling us that, in that school, there's a lot of issues of homosexuality. But me, I tell myself, I want nothing to do with that. Listen with the third ear. Listen with the third ear. The child may be telling you, I'm already in it, but because I don't want you to be so speculative, let me just tell you it happens there, but for me, I'm not there. Watch the child. Walk with them. Not even only the child, even your spouse, even your significant others, your sisters, and everybody else. Maybe what else happens when people are under addictions?
Yeah, because they have to finance their habit. You may start noticing that things disappear, or they tell you that their phone was stolen. Little do you know that maybe they sold it. Even their general appearance, you look at someone and it's like they don't like hygiene.
Yes. And it is all manner of addictions, both the chemical and the non-chemical. Do not isolate them. They affect the brain. They hijack the brain in a similar manner. And I want to show you why it happens. I can ask my colleague to hold for us a chart here for a few minutes. When I talk about the brain being hijacked, what area is usually hijacked? The area we can see here. This area is called the frontal lobe or the prefrontal cortex. And scientists say it occupies 40% of our brain. So you can imagine if it is 40%, all the rest is very small portions. So the 40% is in charge of planning, organization, personality, problem solving, conflict resolution, all those nice things. That is why you will see a person who is operating under an addiction, a hijacked brain. Earlier on, they were planning themselves, like I told you about the bus. The driver knew I'm leaving Nairobi to Thika. In the next 40 minutes, if I don't find jam on the road, I should be at Thika. Once they are hijacked, they never come to Thika even the following day. They may not necessarily get there. They will not be able to take the passengers where they were supposed to go. So planning for a person under addiction is already interfered with. Organizational skills are already interfered with. Conflict resolution, that is why you find people fighting over just a gadget, a phone. Conflict resolution skills, communication becomes broken. They no longer communicate because this person is in a hurry to get into the house, get into the gadget and start watching and doing things, you know. People fight over very small issues that were not supposed to be fought about. So once this is destroyed and hijacked, everything else is interfered with because this is the center of everything. This is the executive. You know, when the executive, like we have in our nation, we have the executive. The executive has the power to rule a nation. That is where the presidency is, you know. So if the executive is interfered with, then even the nation is not at peace. So what it is that I'm saying, it is very possible for you to get your freedom. How do you get your freedom? We were already told earlier on by the colleagues that you can speak to a counselor so that the counselor will help you to process exactly how or what was the genesis, like we said earlier, the egg and the chicken, which came first. Maybe they were the mental health disorders. Can they be explored by either a counselor or a psychiatrist or a doctor or whatever way they can be dealt with? I say a doctor because if the mental health disorders resulted from maybe brain injury, that will need for you to go for medical checkup. So again, if you don't get a counselor, you yourself can decide and purpose, I want to get my healing. You can take books and read. They can also educate you very, very well. And now we have Google that you can use for your benefit, not for making you become worse, but for your benefit. Google and see, how can I be helped? How can I gain my help? You can also go a step further and do journals. Keep writing. Write good things, not only bad things. Journal good things, you know. Be grateful. Be thankful. Be happy. Love yourself. Appreciate yourself. And when you do that, you can still redeem yourself and gain your independence. I will ask my colleagues maybe to bring in their input, say something before we wind up.
Thank you very much. That's quite comprehensive. But maybe two things I can mention. Number one, when you talk of addiction, we are also talking about somebody who is dependent because the brain has already been hijacked. But we are also talking about codependence. You know, there are people who thrive and they would like their loved one, so unfortunate, to continue with the addiction. Mm-hmm. Because if somebody is getting something from betting, mm-hmm, and you are benefiting from it, you don't want him to stop. And another unfortunate thing, there are times even a spouse may want their other spouse to remain dependent, so that when he comes home, they are able now to retrieve a few coins from their pocket. That's being a codependent. And we also talk about enabling the behavior, mm-hmm, where facilitate, either knowingly or unknowingly, somebody to continue with the addiction. And the last thing that I can mention is about cross addiction, where you may overcome one kind of addiction and then you transfer that addiction to something else. Because you will be saying, yes, they have overcome drug addiction because they have been treated and they are on the course of recovery. But then when now they get away from the drugs, there is nothing that fills that emptiness and that hopelessness. So they can very easily look for something else that is going into the engine. She explained it so well. And most likely you will find that somebody who has one kind of addiction, most likely they still have one or two other kinds of addictions.
Yeah, by the way, what she's saying is very true. And especially, and that is the reason why addictions, the major treatment for addictions is behavior therapy, because a behavior is overcome with another. You must find a replacement of that behavior, so that the time you used to watch pornography, you now have something else that you're doing. Again, when we talk about behavior therapy, sometimes it is about withdrawal. You can decide, I don't want this gadget with me because I still am not responsible enough. Until I become responsible enough, I keep the gadget away. So behavior therapy comes in handy. And when she talks about enablers, even those people who have got gambling companies, they are enablers because they are there, they want to earn money, so they wouldn't want you to know how dangerous the addiction is, they still want you to be there. And maybe I forgot something. When these people are in these addictions, they get into another addiction, like she is saying, the debt addiction. They will accrue debts. They have a debt here, another one there, debts after debts after debts after debts.
Wow. Oh, for me, maybe I could ask a question so that you can explain to us matters parenting. Maybe you can enlighten to parents how even children can get addiction and maybe how it can harm their future life.
Yes. And this is what we talked about, the chicken and the egg. Because like we are saying, these addictions, majority of them are behavioral, but some of them are introduced as well. Because when we bring up our children, when that child is 1 month old, you're giving them the phone, you're putting a game, and the child is all over, throwing to my legs and everything, feeling so excited, you're introducing an addiction already to that young brain. And remember, I said it is about hijacking. Imagine the brain of that child has been hijacked as early as 1 month. What is this that you have done? The brain is totally destroyed. The 40% will not even get to 40. Chances are that it will only be, the 40% will have already been destroyed totally when they are growing up. No planning, no organization, no nothing. Even when they go to school, they are just chaotic and all over. And now you invite mental health disorders.
Wow, thank you so much. Maybe before we conclude, I'll allow my colleague to say something and then our facilitators, and then we conclude.
That is very, very informative. And she also talked about of ways that we can overcome addiction. What I can highly recommend also is our spirituality, that we anchor our lives and our hope on Jesus Christ, because we say He is the answer. Yes.
Yeah, I would say that if you are struggling and wallowing in addiction, that is not the end. There is a hope at the end of the tunnel. Don't get to the point of committing suicide, even if you are at hopelessness, even if debts are too many. That is not the end. Talk to someone, and most importantly, we have been told to talk to God. Allow someone to walk with you and hold you so that you will be able to stand at the end of the day. Thank you for listening to us.
Thank you so much. That has been a very informative session, and it's my prayer that you've gotten something. Maybe I should leave you with a quote that says, "The man on top of the mountain did not fall there. So if you are struggling with something, or your family member or someone you love is struggling with something, just know even coming out of it, it's a process. It's just follow on the progress other than waiting to get there. So we'll end there, and may God bless you.